Good morning. It's good to meet you. My name is Doug McManamy. I'm an attorney here with McManamy Jackson, and I'm going to act as your closing attorney for your purchase of 110 Elm Street. How are you today?
Great.
Good. A few housekeeping matters before we jump into the closing documents themselves. First of all, let me ask you, have you ever bought a house before?
No.
Well, congratulations. Let me say this to you. Buying your first home, you'll never forget that house. My wife and I still go back and visit our first home from many, many years ago, so congratulations. Let me also say to you, if you're at all anxious or nervous, I understand this is your first time home purchase. It's probably the biggest purchase you've made in your life, but try not to be. The closing is the easiest part of the process. You've already gone through the hard part. You've found the house you want to make your home. You've been through the mortgage loan, underwriting, and credit approval process. That can be kind of hard. This is just signing documents that contain information that you've already seen in some form or fashion. There should not be any surprises here. These are our closing documents. Pretty thick stack of papers, but in this stack, as thick as it is, in my opinion, there's really only 3 or 4 that I consider truly important from the standpoint of where money's coming from and going to, conveying the title in the property from the seller to you as the buyer, and then perfecting your lender's interest in the property by virtue of its loan. Now, if you have a question at any time, I want you to stop me and ask it. There's no such thing as a dumb, silly, or stupid question. You've never done this before. I do it for a living. I've heard them all, okay? So don't be bashful, hesitant, or embarrassed. Just if you have a question, go ahead and ask. Also, if you have a question that comes up at any time after today, and for as long as you own this property, I want you to feel comfortable in calling me or someone here in my office. We take phone calls like that every day from closings we've handled, sometimes years before. We probably will know the answer when you call, but if we don't, we'll get you the answer. Also, we don't send out any bills for those phone calls. It's all part of the deal right here, okay? Let me ask your real estate agent, Penny, have all conditions and contingencies of the contract been met such that we can proceed to closing?
Yes, they have.
Great. Let me start off here with the document that we refer to as the closing disclosure. And this is one that was prepared in conjunction with your lender. You should have already seen it, but I want to go over it with you and confirm that the information is correct. And on this closing disclosure, you'll note here at the top, we have the loan amount and interest rate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. That results in a monthly principal and interest payment shown here. Is that correct?
Yes.
That number is fixed based on the loan that you have of a 30-year fixed rate loan, so this number is never changing. However, that's not your total monthly payment, because when we include your escrows for taxes and insurance, shown in this section right here, we end up with a total monthly payment in the amount shown here, with the first month's payment being due next month, first day of next month. Does that look like the number that you were thinking for purposes of your first month's payment?
It does.
Now, let me say this to you. That number may change on an annual basis, just a little bit, because the lender doesn't control taxes and insurance, and that's what the escrow account is based on. When we net everything out between the lender, you, and the seller, we end up with an amount due from you shown here in the bottom line. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, that's what we wired in.
And I believe I was going to say we confirmed that you've already wired in your proceeds, and we appreciate you doing that. When we turn to page 2, we see here in paragraphs A and B the bank's charges for putting in place the loan. In paragraph C, these are the charges associated with my law firm handling the closing, to order the title examination, review the title examination, notarization of documents, the attorney's fees, recording fees, and the policy of lenders and owners title insurance. Now, the title insurance, there's a policy to protect the lender, and there's a policy to protect you as the owner. The policy to protect you as the owner is good for as long as you own the property. A lot of times people say, why do I need a policy of owner's title insurance if the bank has one? That's a very fair question. The bank's policy protects the bank. It doesn't protect you. The other thing about it is the owner's policy gives you some additional coverage that isn't involved with the bank's coverage. When I say coverage, what am I talking about? I mean, you're probably looking at me thinking, well, you've run title. Why do I need to worry about the title? Very fair question. The title examination that we've run is a historical look back in time. The title insurance policy is a policy of insurance to cover you from the date of purchase forward in the event any person or entity or company would ever assert a claim that would infringe upon your interest. What the heck does that mean? So let me just give you some examples that we've dealt with over the many years we've been doing this. If someone were to assert a claim of lien against the property that didn't appear in the title examination, if there was an error, fraud, or forgery that we did not know about that was in the title examination or in your chain of title, if someone were to assert a right of easement over or across your property that we otherwise didn't know about, somebody says they have a right to walk from point A to point B and your property happens to be in between. We didn't know anything about that. You didn't know anything about it. The title insurance steps in to protect you against that. There's many other examples of where it comes in. I will just sum it up like this. It does cost you several $100s, but that money will look pretty small in the event there were ever a claim, because the title insurance company steps in and does everything that's necessary to protect you against that claim. The claims are rare, but when they do happen, they're typically kind of big and nasty. Okay? Dropping down, paragraph here in E, these are the charges to pay the clerk of court. Paragraph F, this is where we're paying the interest on your loan from today to the first day of the next month. Okay? Because we're paying that interest today, your first mortgage payment is not due until the first day of the following month. We drop down here to paragraph G. This is the initial funding of that escrow account that we were talking about earlier to pay for your taxes and insurance. Now, what you might find in this first year of the loan is that the tax bills are published in the name of the seller because the tax commissioner generates those bills based on the name of the owner as of January 1st. So if that bill comes into you but it has the seller's name on it, that's okay. It's your bill to pay. We've already talked to the seller about if this bill makes it to the seller through post office mail forwarding or the like, the seller should send it to you.
Now, will I need to pay that bill when it becomes due?
You do not pay it directly. That's going to get paid through your escrow account with the bank, but that's a very good question. So what I suggest you do in this first year of the loan is when you get that bill in hand, call the mortgage company that has your loan, ask for the escrow department, and just confirm with that person, hey, I've received a copy of my tax bill. Do you have a copy or do you need me to send this to you to pay out of my escrow? And make that same kind of phone call when your insurance renewal comes in. Drop down here to paragraph H and we see that we have the policy of owner's title insurance we talked about earlier, as well as we address that there's a home warranty being paid for by the seller in this transaction. Now, the home warranty covers the systems in the home. Hot water, heater, stovetop, heating and air, things of that nature. The seller's agreed to pay for the first year. If a covered item goes on the blink, you call the home warranty company. It assigns the repair person to come out and fix the problem. You do pay a service fee. It's around $75, but it varies according to plan. I'm going to give you two don'ts with respect to the home warranty. If a covered item goes on the blink, don't call your own repair person because the home warranty will not pay that bill. And don't try and fix it yourself, Mr. Smith, because if you can't do so, the home warranty company will void your claim. Okay? Let's turn to the next page here. At the very top, we see the original estimated amount of money you'd need to bring versus the actual. And then at the bottom of this page, you'll see that that is the net amount you'd need to bring to closing, which we discussed earlier from page 1, and you've already wired in. Turn to page 4 and 5. This confirms that there is no prepayment penalty on your loan. So any prepayment that you would make, maybe a partial prepayment or a full prepayment, there's no penalty. If you do make a partial prepayment, I suggest you do so in the form of a separate check. And in the bottom left-hand corner of the check, you write the loan number, and underneath it, write principal only, so the bank doesn't mistakenly apply it towards interest or your escrow. And then finally, we have here some contact information for the people involved in the transaction. And then we have a signature and date here at the bottom. Okay? Any questions up to this point?
Nope.
I have very good news. We just got through about 90% of the substantive information with respect to your closing. We still have a few other documents to sign though. This next document, and I just want to point it out to you rather briefly, is the settlement statement where my office generates the ledger of the transaction between the buyer and the seller. The fees that we just saw on your closing disclosure are reflected, as well as the fees on the seller's closing disclosure, and we merge those together. And you'll see here on this document, on page 1 here, is where we show that seller contribution to your closing costs that was agreed upon in the contract. Okay? This next document says that if there's any errors in the closing documents, we agree to cooperate with one another to fix the errors. So this is the Doug McManamy cover my you-know-what document. Nobody gets away with one if we miss something out of the contract. This is an affidavit that's signed by the seller, just stating that as the seller sits here today at closing, they're not aware of any claims or liens against the property. So this is to protect you. All right, this is an important document. This is the limited warranty deed where the seller is conveying title in the property to you. This is unlike a car title where you have it in your glove box usually. Once we record this at the courthouse, it legally perfects the transfer of title from the seller to you. I also have it set up where, as a married couple, you're taking title as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, which means when one of you dies or passes away, that person's interest automatically conveys to the survivor without the need for any probate. Is that okay?
Great.
This next document is the promissory note, or the loan contract between the bank and you. You see that we confirm the loan amount here, the interest rate here, which is a fixed rate. It will not change over the course of the loan, adjust or vary. It is a 30-year loan based on the maturity date shown here. And then here's that monthly principal and interest that we talked about earlier. Now, you have the right to prepay, as we discussed, without penalty. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is, under this note in Georgia law, if you default for any reason, the bank can foreclose on your interest in the property without filing a lawsuit against you. In Georgia, we refer to that as non-judicial foreclosure. Just to put that into perspective, Georgia is one of the fastest foreclosure states in the country. This is the security deed that perfects the bank's interest in the property by virtue of the loan. And this is what we record at the courthouse, shown here. This next document is the termite certification, showing that there's no wood-eating critters infesting the home now. I strongly suggest that you get the house under bond if it's not already. We do have a lot of wood-eating bugs in this part of the country, and I strongly encourage that to be in place. Now, the following documents are ones that for the most part you've already seen in some form or fashion. In fact, some of them you've already signed. I just need a fresh signature today at closing. This is the continuation of that loan application that I would need you to sign so that we can complete the loan file. Ms. Smith, do you have any questions up to this point?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Great. All right. You can see that we have quite a few documents here to be signed. This document just says that the property is going to be your primary residence. It's not a second home, or it's not investment property. Is that correct? Great.
Provided she doesn't kick me out.
Yeah, that's up to you. This is your amortization schedule. I found that people just like to see this so that one day it really does go to zero. In this case, it's 30 years from now. This is a copy of your first payment letter. We have this in your package of information that you'll get before you leave today, just confirming that total first month's payment with your principal and interest, which is fixed, and your escrow contributions.
Great.
This is a temporary payment coupon for the next 2 months' payments. You will get a statement in the mail from the bank. This is like a double secret probation backup. This next document is some temporary payment coupons for your next 2 months' payments. you're going to receive a statement from the bank every month. This is a double secret probation backup type of document. Now, in today's day and age, I've found that a lot of people like to bank online and pay their mortgage online. What I suggest in that regard, because the bank that you have now is going to sell or assign the servicing of this loan to a different bank, usually a bigger one, sit tight on setting up your online banking until that assignment of the servicing takes place. Your current bank is going to let you know who it has sold the servicing to, and then the new bank will let you know, we've taken over the servicing of this loan. Wait for that to happen before you set up any type of online payment system. Now, two things about the online payment. You do have the right to prepay without penalty under the online payment. What I suggest people do is take a screenshot of that prepayment towards principal, just so they have a written record. I still don't quite fully trust the system, so to speak. The other thing about the selling and servicing of your loan, if you ever receive a subsequent notice from a different person or thing who is saying, we are now servicing your loan, send us your monthly mortgage payment, you make sure and confirm that with the bank you've been paying. And the reason why I say that is there are a lot of bad people out there who would love nothing more than for you to send them your monthly mortgage payment. Okay? This is just a forecast of your escrow payments into and then out of that account to pay the bills, so you can see where the bank fully anticipates paying that tax bill that you mentioned earlier, Mr. Smith. This is our identification verification, which we did earlier with your 2 forms of ID that we're required to get under the Patriot Act. Have you received a copy of your appraisal that was done by the bank as part of the purchase?
We did. They emailed it to us.
Great. I strongly encourage you to keep a copy of that appraisal in written or data form, however works best for you. And the reason is twofold. First is it gives you a nice baseline in terms of value, both for your house and what were used as comparables. And the second reason is at some point in time, you're probably going to move. I mean, that's usually what happens. And when that point in time comes and you call your real estate agent, Penny, and say, hey, look, we're getting ready to move. We want you to list our house for sale. That appraisal gives you the best information in terms of actual square footage for you to use with your later marketing of the property. And then finally, sir, this is just a bank document here stating that you agree to comply with all the terms of the loan, and in the event there's an error, you agree to cooperate with the bank in remedying the area. Great. Congratulations, you've just bought your first home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Penny, is there anything you would like to go over with your clients at this time?
Just the final paperwork. We've got a folder for all your documents. Like Doug talked about before, this is your closing statement. So when you go to set up your utilities, you go to the water department, they're gonna wanna see the closing statement. This is what you show them. And these are all the documents for your records. So you're just gonna keep those here. Those in a safe place. I do have a copy of your home warranty plan, so you gotta know what it covers, what it doesn't. And we got a couple other things in here for you. And your key.
Yeah.
All
Your
right.
key, and the other keys and the garage door opener are in the house. They're in one of the kitchen drawers.
Great.
Great.
All right,
Awesome.
congratulations.
Thank you.